Many of you will know this, but Valentino Rossi isn't just the most famous name in the history of motorbike racing. He is currently racing on 4 wheels, driving a BMW M4 GT3 in the likes of the World Endurance Championship. But clickbaity social media posts aside, how good has the doctor actually been since his full-time switch to cars in 2022? Yes, full-time switch. Rossi has competed in a number of rally events, winning the Monza Rally Show on 7 occasions and even taking part in a few WRC events. He's driven in 2 rounds of the Blancpain Endurance Series in 2012, finished third twice in the Gulf 12 Hours at the wheel of a Ferrari 488, and famously tested various Ferrari F1 cars during the 2000s. But what we're interested in is his time in the GT3 category since 2022. Rossi joined Team WRT, one of the top teams in GT racing, for a double campaign in the 2 main European GT3 championships, namely the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup and the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup. First try. In the Sprint Cup, he would be partnering Audi factory driver Frederik Vervisch. Meanwhile, he and the Belgian were joined by another Audi guy, the ever-rapid Nico Müller, for the 5 races in the Endurance Cup. Given his inexperience and at the age of 43, it would have to be a learning year, especially considering the amount of factory drivers fielded by the likes of Mercedes, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, and BMW. And as he personally expected, getting towards those benchmarks proved to be difficult. Driving his own iconic number 46, Rossi was consistently the worst qualifier in the endurance events out of his teammates, where all 3 drivers have to set a lap time which is averaged out afterwards, and his race pace was usually among the bottom few drivers within the pro class, though this is understandable, as he is a silver-rated driver and thus not a pro. He also made a notable mistake on his debut in Imola, where he missed the lollipop man in the pit lane and had to do another lap before pitting properly. However, the Italian did improve towards the end of the season, and the team were able to close out the campaign with 3 top 10 finishes and 16th place in the drivers' standings. As for the Sprint Cup, Rossi and Vervisch weren't able to come anywhere close to the potential of their Audi, which won the title for a 3rd successive year with Dries Vanthoor and Charles Weerts. And they were even beaten by the fully silver-rated lineup of Thomas Neubauer and Benji Goethe. Rossi also struggled in qualifying here, despite being in the weaker quali group most of the time, and he also crashed at Manicourt. The highlight of the year came at Misano, where Rossi used some good progress by Vervisch, a quick stop by the WRT group, and a late safety car to finish 5th. In the end, 16th in the standings looks very underwhelming, but it wasn't terrible considering it was Rossi's proper debut. If he wanted to take a step in the Audi R8 LMS he'd been driving in 2023 though, Rossi would be left disappointed, as WRT switched to become a partner of BMW when Audi made clear that it would focus its efforts on a series commonly known as F1? Okay. With this move, Rossi would also become a BMW factory driver, which was definitely not done as a publicity stunt. Rossi and WRT, for that matter, made their debut for the Munich-based brand in the Dubai 24-hour race, where Rossi and his teammates finished 3rd while the sister car won the event. This was followed by Rossi's first tour around Mount Panorama, where he actually showed very competitive pace, only finishing 6th alongside Maxime Martin and Augusto Farfus due to a late electrical issue. He would then enter the Endurance Cup with those 2 drivers. Meanwhile, Martin would join Rossi for the Sprint Cup rounds. Rossi started the Monza race from 2nd as his qualifying group was cancelled, though he would lose the spot to Mauro Engel after half an hour, before his gearbox went into neutral at the first chicane a few laps later. Rossi had gone over the curb after overshooting the corner, which resulted in damage and led to a puncture during Farfus' stint. This set the tone for their Endurance Cup season, during which the 46 crew only finished in the top 10 twice, retired after Martin made contact with an Audi at the Nürburgring, and didn't finish at Barcelona as Rossi spun into the gravel. They did end up 15th in the championship though, so at least that's an improvement. His quali pace did not improve that much, but his race pace was solid enough, especially given Rossi's status as a silver driver. He was at or near the level of people
far younger and more powerful,
like F3 race winner David Schumacher or F3 podium finisher Callan Williams, which is, given the circumstances, really strong indeed for Valentino. But of course, when talking about 2023, we must not forget the Sprint Cup. Although his qualifying there wasn't good either, he was able to use the track position given to him by Martin and WRT's rapid pit stops to maintain a good level of pace and drive towards stronger results on Sundays. At Brands Hatch, this exact method earned Rossi 2nd place and his first podium in the Sprint Cup, and Misano gave the team a little bit more. Martin entered the pits in 3rd, and Rossi left them in the lead of race 2. And after streaking ahead of Lucas Legere, Rossi, who who had previously won the San Marino Grand Prix and MotoGP at this track on 3 occasions, who had worked hard to adapt to a completely new sport in his 40s, crossed the finish line in first place. Rossi stopped on track and got out of his car, which may or may not have been a bit illegal, and celebrated with all of the fans that had come just to see him race. With this result and another podium at Zandvoort, Rossi and Martin managed to finish the campaign 5th overall, a pretty impressive feat for the Italian in just his second full year of car racing. We aren't done here. Rossi took part in the support race for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, driving alongside Akoda's ASP team principal Jérôme Policand. As a comparison, this would be like if Toto Wolff was asked to drive for Red Bull. Oh, wait, he actually did that. In perhaps the only time where the Michelin Le Mans Cup gained any notoriety for anything other than having more safety cars than an F1 open lobby, Rossi and Policand won the second race after Rossi overtook Anders Fjordbach and benefited from a penalty for the GT3 leader. Finally, Rossi concluded a positive second year by finishing second in the Gulf 12 Hours together with fellow BMW factory drivers Dries Vanthoor and Nick Yellerly. At this time, rumours regarding Rossi's 2024 schedule were running rampant. As the WEC replaced the LMGTE category with the LMGT3 class, BMW was one of the manufacturers chosen to field entries in 2024, with WRT running the operation. Soon enough, it was confirmed that Rossi would be in the number 46 car alongside Martin and the mandated bronze driver, which turned out to be one of the faster amateurs in Ahmed Al-Hati. In addition, Rossi remained in the Endurance Cup for a third year, this time being joined by Martin and the new star in the BMW stable, Raffaele Marciello, and he would partake in a few rounds of the Sprint Cup as well alongside Martin. So far, the season hasn't really gone to plan for Valle. Sure, he's made further improvements with his pace and has now established himself as a very capable silver driver, but apart from another blinding weekend at Misano, where Rossi and Martin won race 1 and then finished third in race 2, in a race for which Rossi qualified in a pretty impressive 5th place, there hasn't been anything special. He and the team scored a first podium in the WEC at a rainy Imola, despite Rossi not having the greatest time in wheel-to-wheel combat, though Martin was beaten for the win during the final hour by Augusto Farfus in the sister car. They then retired at Spa before Rossi could get into the car when René Rast did what he usually does, before the team went to Le Mans. Valentino Rossi would finally tackle the greatest race in motorsport. But even though he led the race during the 4th hour, it all came undone during the night, when Al-Hati spun off after the Dunlop Bridge and crashed into the wall, which is quite suboptimal. In the last 3 races, Rossi has been quite inconsistent. He battled very well against former world champion Jose Maria Lopez at Sao Paulo, but took ages to overtake Gregor Associ in Austin, and when he did, he was slapped with a penalty for making contact with the McLaren driver. At Fuji, Rossi snuck past Gelael and eventually took 3rd place, leaving the team 5th overall before the final round. In the Endurance Cup, a strong drive from Martin at Monza to finish 4th is really all the 46 crew have to show for their efforts, as Rossi had a nightmare during the 24 Hours of Spa and got multiple penalties. One for spinning around Davide Rigon in the evening, and another for crashing into the number 8 Ferrari on Sunday. That's been an issue for Rossi during the past 2 years. He is close to the pace of some great talent, but he still lacks the experience to race them cleanly all the time. One could argue that some drivers don't race very cleanly despite their experience anyway, but I digress. In any case, I think that it's already very impressive to be talking about fights with genuine talents, given that, and I repeat this again, Rossi started this adventure less than 3 seasons ago. Had he started 15 or 20 years later... Wait, no.
We have to get on, we have so much time and so little to do. Strike that. Reverse it.
Had he started 15 or 20 years earlier, I have no doubts that he would have been able to achieve very good things in the sport of auto racing, though he would never have amassed anywhere near the level of accolades or adoration within the motorsport world. And speaking of that, Rossi's switch to cars has added to the growing fascination with sports car racing, given how many people tune in just to see him race. Sure, some people might turn off their streams when the 46 happens to find itself in a wall, but some people will stick around to see some of the most competitive and exciting racing series on offer. And the success Valentino has already achieved, and the wins he could still go on to claim in a GT3, will add to the legacy of a motor racing legend in their own way. And even though he won't become one of the top drivers in cars now, the improvement in speed, and hopefully a more consistent and better approach to racecraft going forward, shall give us more memories with the fabled 46. Thank you all for watching. I would like to say that aside from watching races and highlights, as well as reading articles or looking at timing pages, I used the B-pillar to find out more about Rossi's race pace. This isn't a sponsorship. B-pillar are often a useful tool to see how fast drivers went on average during a race. Go to the bpillar.com to have a look at the data they can provide for series such as the WEC or the various GT World Challenge Championships. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. See you in a year!